Thank you so much, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with all of you and learn about your organization. You guys really do a lot. I'm quite impressed. It's pretty impressive. And I'm so excited to come back to Franklin Mountain Hawkwatch, this area. Apparently there are golden eagles. I haven't seen them. Last time we were here, we didn't see them. So I'm thinking maybe it's just a way to bring people here. Eventually, hoping to see one. So we'll just have to keep coming. That's okay, because we love it here. Yeah, so I love talking about raptor migration. Can everybody hear me okay in the back? I'm kind of loud. I love talking about raptor migration, and I got into raptor migration 25 or so years ago. I rode my bike across the country with a friend from Washington State to Maine, and then I got on a bus and I took it out to Wisconsin and I did a hawk watch. And my friend said, "You don't need to know anything. I know everything about hawk watching." You can go to the next slide. It was a hawk watch right on the Mississippi River. Is it working? It's your one job, Phil. So I'm on the Mississippi River in southern Wisconsin, and I had I had worked bird jobs before, but I didn't really know, I didn't really have any connection to migration, and was hired on at this little Hawkwatch Eagle Valley Nature Preserve, and it was life changing. I had never seen migration like that. Hundreds of bald eagles a day, tundra swans, red-headed woodpeckers, blue jays by the thousands. And there was a banding station. I was seeing raptors up close, and it just changed everything. And I had never seen migration in that scope and up that close. So yeah, I got hooked immediately. I loved it. And so I had a lot of migration jobs after that. And I seriously. Oh, okay. So I can't look at you unless I want the slide change. I'll give you a thumbs up when it's time. Okay, there's a little slow. We should have practiced. But after all my field work, I got started to work for Humana for HMA, and it's so fun, even though I'm not doing field work anymore or as much, because I get to connect with so many different hawk watchers, just like the great group here that I've met at Franklin Hawk Watch, and I'm just so impressed with your ability to see just the community you've created around your hawk watch and all the education you do and invaluable research. It's really important. So thank you guys for all that you do. Our organization, we just turned 50. And so we were known as Humana. I still kind of slip up and call us Humana, but we're HMA. And this is our network of sites. That is, all these sites are monitoring raptors in the spring and fall. And it stretches down into South America and Venezuela and Colombia now. So we needed a new name. So when we turned 50, we decided to have a more a name that better fits our network. So we're now the Hawk Migration Association. And yeah, we also traded in the golden eagle, sadly, for a broadwing hawk that's more representative of the entire migration network. So it's very fitting. And now we're at hawkmigration.org. So I'm going to talk a little bit about everything, a little bit about what we do at HMA, our programs, migration monitoring, how it got started in this country and how it kind of evolved, and then talk a little bit about what we've learned, what it's taught us over the years from all this long-term data that's being collected and how species are doing. So just from to start off with, I know lots of you are hawk watchers. Some of you might not be, but hawk migration monitoring is basically counting during the spring and fall migration seasons and it's from a fixed location. So usually a mountaintop, a ridge line, a valley, a coastline, anywhere where raptors are being concentrated, like the Franklin Mountain Hawkwatch. It's a great viewpoint. And it's really telling us a lot about not just raptor populations, but their overall migration ecology and how birds are moving and where they're moving and what time and their relation with weather. It's a fabulous education tool. Everybody loves raptors. People love sharing raptor stories, and it's a great way to hook people on nature and birds and get them excited and coming back. So it's also totally addictive. These are my kiddos a few years ago at the state line hawkwatch in New Jersey. Sometimes they go birding with us still, but not as much as they used to. So we are basically a support organization for the network of hawkwatch sites. So HMA doesn't have a headquarters. It's kind of my kitchen table at the moment. I'm the one full-time employee. We have a half-time employee, and we are the support organization for all these sites. So they're submitting data to our organization, which we manage, and we come up with data sheets and protocols and all kinds of educational materials that they can share with the public. And it largely was volunteer for the first 30 years. So we've had a lot of changes over the past 20 years or so. And we have a volunteer board that's doing a lot. We're a tiny organization, but we do a lot. And these are all the committees that board members pretty much run. As Susan was talking about all the advocacy that you guys are working on, with window strikes, we have a very active conservation and education committee. So we're working hard to try to give support to different bird conservation initiatives, like the Bird Banding Lab. And hawk watchers, I think, are a very hardy bunch. You guys know that. There's a lot of camaraderie. That's what I love. I love that you never know what you're going to see. It's always a mystery every day, looking out at that horizon, and also just trying to figure out what every bird is. That's exciting. I think I speak for a lot of hawk watchers when I say it's so fun not knowing what you're going to see and then trying to figure out what each bird is. This is our view looking north. Phil and I are counters at the Monadnock Raptor Observatory in New Hampshire. And it's not only a great chance during migration to count raptors and contribute to a better understanding of raptor populations and education, but it's just so cool to be up there all day and see the seasons change as well as what birds might change throughout the season. And this is what it looked like earlier in the week at our site. And I love that people are just hanging out in a cloud. Like just they're definitely party. And if you hang out long enough, you might get a chance to see something like a northern harrier right overhead, or the next slide, a sharp-shinned hawk just swooping right low. It's pretty exciting. And sometimes migration just looks like this. It's not as exciting. It can just be a speck on the horizon heading away from you, and you're freezing every inch of your body in the wind or snow. This is a bald eagle heading away, and yeah, we always hope for the last slide, the sharp-shinned hawk, when we have big school groups coming and we want to engage them and get them excited about migration. But sometimes it's just a tiny little, a raven or a red squirrel to look at. And these birds, these guys are the superstars of September, broadwing hawks, which you guys saw a fair bit of this year. This is usually the species that draws in a lot of the crowds in the fall. And there's a little video if you want to play that. I don't know if you can from there. If it's too much, it's fine. Wow. But it's kind of hit or miss whether or not you see those big numbers. You had a couple big days in New Hampshire where we were. But yeah, the lucky sites get to see it. And as you move further south, these numbers really grow. You can go to the next slide if you want. This is a kettle of a group of Mississippi kites down in Costa Rica. So you really see a lot of birds, a lot of concentrated raptors as you head, especially along the Gulf Coast and down through Mexico, Central America, is when things really get exciting. Migration monitoring is also a great opportunity to monitor non-raptors like monarchs. I know you guys do it here at Franklin Mountain. This is taken in Cape May, where they actually do a lot of tagging and MODIS now. But we send all the migration sites can opt in whether or not they want to count monarchs or dragonflies, various species of dragonflies. And then we send that data to various organizations and share it at the end of the year. Lots of other species are monitored, like pelicans or wood storks. You can go to the next slide. Common nighthawks, a lot of migration sites. Yeah, Phil, my husband, has a whole nighthawk project that he does every early fall. He gets people to come out and we can share that data as well with the Nighthawk Project. So this is, again, a photo of the network, and there are just over 200 sites counting in the spring and fall, which is really impressive because these are largely volunteers. There aren't that many Hawkwatch sites with staffed paid counters. So it's largely a community science project for these people. They just love counting birds and contributing this important data. And the project histories are really growing. We have over 10 sites now with 50 years of data, which is really impressive. And you can see there, a lot of those sites are kind of clustered in the Northeast. It's very popular in the Northeast, down the Appalachians. They're kind of on top of each other. And I think New York has the most active Hawkwatch sites than any other state. I think Pennsylvania and New York, you guys are pretty good. Yeah, here's a better map. You can kind of get a feel for where those sites are. A lot of the spring sites are on the Great Lakes and just kind of going down the coastline or Appalachians. And every site is really so different. Some of them are more focused on data collection, long-term data collection and following a standardized protocol. Others might be just out for the fun of it. It might be an elementary school that counts 4 days out of the year to try to bring those numbers back to the classroom and play with the data, or just a chance to see some broadwing hawks and get the kids excited. So they all have varying goals, and we support all of them equally, or try to, education and research. We have a few grants that we offer throughout the year. The research grant, this is Phil banding a broadwing hawk with Rebecca McCabe from Hawk Mountain. We partnered together to put transmitters on broadwing hawks. This is an incredible project. They're learning so much about broadwing migration ecology. We actually put a transmitter on our backyard broadwing this year, right in our backyard, and now it's where in Central America, making its way, and we'll get to know where our backyard bird is spending the winter, which is amazing. I think it might be Bolivia, Brazil, like they all kind of spread out when they get to South America. So yeah, Amanda, you can go to the next slide. So HMA has that research grant, and also this is for the Hawkwatch site, the Hawkwatch Fund grant. And I know Franklin Mountain has received one in the past. It's a good opportunity to purchase binoculars or create interpretive signs, because a lot of sites are struggling not just to stay afloat and keep people manning sites, but just to keep the interest going, keep engaging young people. So it's very important. We have a Raptor-a-thon that happens every spring, where we teams raise money. They go out for a day of birding. And then they split the money. Half goes to Humana programs and grants, and the other half they save for their site. So this has been really great for a number of sites that, you know, they use these funds every year to pay their counter or produce materials, brochures or t-shirts or things like that. And International Hawk Migration Week is something we came up with years ago, just to shine a light on all the sites doing amazing work. So we have banners. I think we have over 80 banners now that sites are displaying in mid-September. And we picked that week because it's the biggest week when hawkcount.org, our database, gets just inundated with millions of, you know, all the records of hawks. It's the biggest week. So yeah, a great opportunity for sites to hold festivals and workshops and ways to engage with the public. Separate from our hawk count database, we have another database for Winter Raptor Survey. And this is really fun if you're itching to do some birding between migration season and the CBC season. You can develop your own driving route. We do this with our family every January 1st and head out in our car and count raptors basically from the car along the Connecticut River, which is fun. And we started this during COVID, just monthly, featuring raptor researchers on a monthly basis. Some of you have probably joined Lunch and Learns before, but they're free, they're open to the public. You can sign up on our website or join our e-newsletter and get reminders, but they've been wildly popular. We have like over 50 recordings, I think, on our website. And I think you can go to the next one. This month, end of the month, we're gonna be hearing about gyrfalcon and peregrine research from the Arctic. So check out the website if you're interested. And lots of education resources. We have our Junior Hawkwatcher guide, which I brought for the Franklin folks here. And just a lot of DVDs, silhouette guides. I brought a few of them if anybody's interested. Laminated guides, which are kind of fun to take in the field. This is our Junior Hawkwatcher guide. It's probably for like elementary to middle school age kids. Yep. To our last. Notice there's no golden eagles in the background of that. If anybody notices that, but yeah. Road trips are my favorite part of my job. I kind of wear a lot of hats at HMA, and I do a lot of fundraising and applying for grants and connecting with sites and marketing and you name it, a lot of different tasks. But this is my favorite by far because I get to actually meet the people that I've been emailing all these years and hear how their sites are going and what their challenges might be and how our organization can better support them. Here's a few places we've been. I think we've been to over 100 sites now, which is pretty good. Yeah, my son Alden was with us today and he was not as excited to look for birds, I would say. He's been dragged to a lot of hawkwatching. Still pretty good though. Like he'll say, "Oh yeah, there's a did anybody see that goshawk?" You know, he's got great eyes and he knows his birds. He's more interested in snakes. So this might look familiar to some of you. This is where it all started for migration monitoring. Hawk Mountain in Pennsylvania, and it was the world's first sanctuary for birds of prey. So people have known for a long time that, you know, monitoring raptors, counting them on migration was a great way to learn about raptor populations. You can go to the next slide, but it all started with this guy, Maurice Brune. 1934 was the first hawk watch, and he was the first one to do it. And in the 1920s, there was a lot of mass shooting going on, of course. So this was a very big switch in the time to say we're going to count them instead of shoot them. And there were a lot of guards at Hawk Mountain to prevent that area from shooting. And I think just 2 years later, Wagner's Gap started counting. So they were the next ones to follow suit. By the early 50s, Hanging Rock Tower, West Virginia, started counting. You can go to the next slide. Mount Peter, New York, in the late 50s. So it's catching on. Hawk Ridge Bird Observatory in the mid 60s, Minnesota. And then the 70s, a lot happened. Hawk watching became very popular, especially in the Northeast. And this was kind of the beginning of Humana, the New England Hawk Watch. It was a group of raptor enthusiasts, and they developed green sheets, data sheets, and kind of a protocol for how to count. So this happens throughout kind of Connecticut, Massachusetts. And people started submitting their reports. You can go to the next slide. So these were some of the sites that people were counting at in the area. And you'd send in your data and you'd wait till the end of the year, and then a report would come out from Northeast Hawk Watch as what was seen and where. So this was Humana's first ever report in 1974. You can see the data sheet, which hasn't changed a whole lot since then. And a very excited Connecticut hawk watcher. 1976, Pete Dunn was the first counter at Cape May, a very popular hawk watching destination. And as I said, this was just when things were blowing up, and the hawk watching was like the thing to do. And a lot of people experimented with sites, counting at hilltops and mountains all over, especially the Northeast, for like a year or two, just temporary experimental sites, and then things, just to find out whether it was good enough for migration. In the mid 80s, Golden Gate Raptor Observatory came on board. This was also around the time when Hawkwatch International started out west, that runs on about eight Western Hawkwatch sites. And a very important site started counting in the mid 90s. This is Ernesto Ruelas, who was one of the founders of the River of Raptors in Veracruz, Mexico. And it's a very important site because there's almost the world population of broadwings moving over their heads every fall, and again in the spring, and with Swainson's hawks, and tremendous amount of Mississippi kites, turkey vultures. So they count close to 5 million raptors every fall. So it's such an important site to manage and to maintain for raptor populations. So in 2000, we stopped collecting data sheets and submitting them to Humana. There's still a warehouse full of them and next to Hawk Mountain, and we're slowly in the process of digitizing all of it, if you can believe that. If anyone wants to volunteer for data entry, we're always looking for help with that. But this was huge. Hawk Count came on board. It was just an idea that Holiday Beach Hawk Watch in Ontario thought they would come up with. So Jason Sodergran, he runs Hawk Count from a little town in Alaska, and he developed this back in 2000 just for his site on Holiday Beach, and it grew. So people started submitting their data online, and it's pretty incredible. If you haven't checked out this website, this database, I highly recommend it. This is an app that's coming out soon. I think you guys at Franklin Mountain use paper for recording, but a lot of sites like to have real-time data entry directly to Hawk Count. And there's a couple of apps that allow you to do that, and we're coming out with a new one that should be pretty streamlined. That's coming soon. But if you go into Hawk Count, you can find the site near you and plan a visit. These are all the active sites, 17 of them. Well, this is showing all of them, I think. Some of them might be a little not so active, but all along the Great Lakes shorelines there. Whole bunch of them down near New York City. So pretty good coverage, say. You can see learn a lot about migration windows, when each species comes through, record days, data inventory, how long sites have been collecting data, and just, you can reach out to the site coordinator or find directions. It's a lot there. There's also buttons you can click on to get the whole data history in summary. So it's pretty neat. And RPI is a partnership to make use of all this amazing data. So there's some simple graphs and charts on hawk count, but in the early 2000s, RPI was formed to try and make sense of all this data and try to figure out how raptor populations are doing. So the partnership is with these 4 organizations. And initially we came out with a book. You can go to the next slide. The first publication in 2004 was the first publication. And since then, we've just done analyses like every few years, and we update the website with that information. But not all the data on hawk count can be used. There's criteria that sites need to make sure that they fit before they can be part of it. So you need at least 10 years of data, follow a standardized protocol, either HMAs or their own, and they have to be counting for at least 3/4 of the migration season. So these analyses are happening every few years, and we have a website. The most recent analysis was 2023, and we're still just now getting it up on the website because the previous one was 2019, and it's just taking a little bit longer. So we are going to be getting the most updated numbers. It's almost time to run our analysis again, and we still haven't gotten the last one up. So I have to apologize to all the sites that are part of RPI and have been waiting for all these trend graphs. Our partners and HMA, we used to have a lot of grant funding for the RPI, and we currently don't. So I think partners are kind of stretched thin running all their other programming. So it sometimes falls on the back burner, unfortunately. But we are just about done to have everything up online. I think we're just working out some species assessments. But this is a new website, and we broke down things. We're trying to make things a little bit more user-friendly. So we categorize things into raptors at risk and raptors on the rise. And these are the species that we are kind of flagging as raptors at risk. The red is species showing the highest proportion of declines. And, you know, if you look at migration data, it's only really a piece of the puzzle. If we have wintering data that we can use from CBC data, that's another piece of the puzzle. Sometimes we bring in breeding bird survey data when we have it. So this analysis kind of looks at migration and CBC data. So these are the 6, it should say American goshawk, that's the new name. But these 6 species are the most we're worried about. And a few of those, I'll go through some trend graphs and maps just to kind of give you a sense of what we're looking at. But we break things down into regions, which is tough because birds are migrating and they don't know state and country lines. But we kind of come up with assessments for how species are doing overall and then how they might be doing regionally. And the pie charts kind of give you a sense of that. But the downward arrows is declining. The blue dots means it's stable. This is for migration monitoring. And a green arrow is increasing. And if you see the states that are pink and green and gray, that's increasing, decreasing. That's all CBC data. So we try to come up with overall how we think species are doing, and sharpshins certainly seem like they are declining on both CBC and on migration. And this is just showing you kind of how to read these trend graphs. You don't have to pay much attention to it, just kind of look at the curve. That will give you a sense. And this is the average predicted number of individual birds detected per day. So it's not actually number of birds, but you'll get the idea. Go ahead. So shark shin hawks definitely showing a decline, different from Cooper's hawks. We've seen some declines being shown for Cooper's hawks on migration, but then the CBC numbers are showing them they're A-OK. And it's a species along with red tails that we think are changing their migration behavior and maybe short stopping, not migrating as far, responding more to climate change and other factors. Whereas shark shin hawk looks like a legitimate population decline. This is Franklin Mountain. Again, you can see that little dip in recent years. Go ahead. And harriers, I'll just run through a few species. Harriers are another species of concern, losing a lot of nesting habitat for sure. You see a lot of downward arrows. This is a 10-year trend. So pretty soon on our website, we're going to have this through 2023. This is Rose Tree Park in Pennsylvania. You can see a pretty steady decline. Franklin Mountain as well for harriers. And kestrels are a species that we've been concerned about for a long time. They've shown a lot of long-term declines. Some sites in recent years are actually seeing improvements and pulling out of that decline. But the 10-year trend, you can see a lot of wintering and migration declines. But around the Great Lakes, those numbers are looking pretty good out west. Cadillac Mountain up in Maine, they usually see a lot of kestrels, and their numbers have been steadily declining there. Braddock Bay, a spring site again, showing pretty steady there. And I put Franklin Mountain in here, and you guys have had some pretty relatively consistent kestrel numbers. Ospreys are an interesting species because along with bald eagles, they were just kind of climbing and climbing and climbing for a lot of years. And it's interesting. There have been some significant declines at some sites in some regions, in the Northeast especially. I know we're hearing a lot about Chesapeake Bay, that area, for breeding ospreys because of maybe overfishing with menhaden. We don't know if maybe some of these declines are the result of bald eagle competition. Bald eagles are definitely the bully between the two. So that could be what we're seeing. I was happy to hear today that some ospreys are returning to your region for breeding in recent years. That's good news. But Quaker Ridge, this is one of the sites, long-term sites, that has been seeing steady declines for osprey. Cape May, they count a lot of ospreys, and they seem like they're doing just fine there. That's why it's important to kind of look at the overall picture of migration sites, why it's so important to have so many RPI sites, because you could look at this and say, hey, they're doing great, they're awesome. And then you look at other sites, maybe not so much, and everything is different region to region. And why it's so important to monitor sites at like Corpus Christi, Texas, and Veracruz, Mexico, because they are seeing, the bulk of some of these world populations of species. So we can look at trend graphs or look at numbers on hawk count and think broadwings are having a pretty bad year. Maybe it's been a bad breeding year for them, or their population is declining. But then we look at numbers in Veracruz, and they're doing just fine. It's just so variable which sites see birds from year to year. Oh, this is the Franklin one. I'm sorry, I blanked. Yeah, you guys have definitely been seeing a decline in osprey over the years. Okay. And then, like, happier news, raptors on the rise. There are several species doing well. Peregrines, bald eagles, and turkey and black vultures. So the dark green have the lowest proportion of declines for migration and CBC, and the light green approaching those levels. So these are species to feel good about. You can go to the next slide. Peregrine numbers, a lot of green on that map, and a lot of blue circles. They're doing pretty well. I have noticed a couple declines at some local sites. You can go to the next slide. Hawk Mountain, this is kind of an incredible trend graph to look at because you see from 1934 to the present, so you can see really the DDT era and how they were just so low and what, how incredible protection and conservation efforts, what an improvement that made, and not using DDT. So Monadnock, I threw this one in for peregrines. We don't see a ton of peregrines at our site in New Hampshire, but it's interesting to see the trends there. And Franklin Mountain, you guys have been seeing a little drop off there. And the Florida Keys, Hawkwatch, they have a very similar trend graph, where in recent years, peregrine numbers are starting to dip a little bit. And we were not quite sure what's going on there, but I'm interested to learn more about it. Bald eagles are, of course, the greatest conservation success story. They continue to skyrocket. Even my mom, who doesn't even watch birds, has seen eagles in recent years. Everybody has eagle stories. So across the board, doing very well. Cape May, New Jersey, numbers climbing since the 70s. Franklin Mountain, you guys, looks like it's kind of a steady trend graph there. And we don't have a section on our website for birds that are stable. I mean, you can go on and you can read a species assessment for every single species, all 28 species that we monitor. But for my slideshow, I just wanted to touch on the species that seem to be doing pretty well and showing stable populations. So that's the broadwing hawk, the red-shouldered hawk, the red-tailed hawk, the golden eagle, the merlin, and the Cooper's hawk. So they seem to be showing stable trends. So this is a map, 10-year trend map for the golden eagle. Doing okay out west, certainly just a few sites showing declines around the Great Lakes. This is Allegheny Front in Pennsylvania, a site that sees a lot of goldens. But it's thought that populations are increasing a bit in the northeast, in the east. Franklin Mountain, year numbers, it's more or less steady, a little dip from recent years. And broadwing hawks also showing pretty stable, especially at these sites that really count the bulk of, which is important. I will say broadwing hawks seem to be changing their range, shifting their range a bit. Historic sites where they normally would nest in kind of Pennsylvania, for instance, they seem to be kind of shifting north and shifting west. But Hawk Mountain, these are their numbers from way back. And I put Franklin Mountain in here to show you those numbers over the years. And Veracruz numbers pretty steady. Oh, that's Kestrel. Huh, how'd that get in there? Merlins are thought to be increasing, especially in the northeast, showing stable trends overall, and keep going. I'm gonna start losing people with all these trend graphs, but it's kind of a fun little snapshot after decades and decades of squinting eyes looking at the horizon. This is the result of it. Lighthouse sees a lot of merlins, so they have pretty steady numbers there. And this is Tadoussac up in Quebec, farthest east site. We've been really seeing an increase in merlins. That's great. And that brings me to where we are headed with RPI. Certainly getting this analysis up is number one on our list, and getting that information to sites and the public. We want state agencies, we want the public, we want people who are making decisions for birds and bird conservation. We want to get RPI in front of them. So we're working on a number of publications. We just came out with a Kestrel paper, and we're always trying to promote it. Once we have the website up to date, we're going to be just getting that information out to as many people as we can and organizations. So the number of sites that are involved in RPI is just over 80. And that number grows with every new analysis because people have sites might have 6 or 7 or 8 years of data. And by the time we run the analysis, they meet that criteria with 10 years of data. So that's exciting. And I didn't really talk much about what is causing a lot of these declines in raptors. These are the main factors. There's probably more. I think habitat loss is certainly a big one, forest fragmentation. And rodenticides we're hearing a lot about lately. And I'd be preaching to the choir if I tell you guys about it. But certainly that's a big challenge we're facing and trying to get some legislation passed for all wildlife. Yeah, and ways you can help birds and help raptors. You guys are doing it, so you guys know all these things, but really supporting raptor focused and bird focused organizations and conservation efforts is a great way to support birds and support raptors. And go hawk watching. We have a membership if anybody's interested. I have a lot of brochures up here and a few copies of our journal, which has flyway reports, migration articles, tours that we're leading in the future, just kind of a fun journal that you can subscribe to for $30 a year. We have one that comes out every spring and fall. And we have membership discounts for tours and events and things. Or you can join our e-newsletter, which is a great way that goes out like once a month. And it's a great way to just hear about what's happening in the migration network and yeah, hear about all about sites. And we have a lot of cool merchandise too. Migration themes. We count is kind of our slogan, which is kind of cool. There's one more slide, I think. Yeah. Merch. Lots of merch. Yeah, so I'm so happy to have been here and connect with all you guys. I love Franklin Hawkwatch and all that you do. It's really impressive. It's all a volunteer effort, which I don't know how you guys do it. It's a lot. So thank you so much. Keep up all your good work. Thanks. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them. Yep.
So, I noticed on the Franklin Mountain Golden Eagle trend graph that it dropped a little bit in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
I pay a lot of attention to the weather, and we have not been getting the strong northwest winds that give us the big eagle count
Yeah.
the last few years.
Yep.
So that's going to be affecting that trend graph. Like, can you figure that? Does that figure into your analysis?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know it's becoming more common. We're hearing from a lot of sites that say we're not getting the big broadwing northwest winds mid-September. We're like everything's changing. We're not getting the birds we used to get. It's a lot of south winds. It's not getting the birds moving. They're wondering if they should even continue counting or go look for somewhere else to start a new hawkwatch site. So it's affecting a lot of sites, and it's gonna cause a lot of changes. I don't know exactly if Birds Canada is accounting for that. I can ask the team. I'm not sure how much they're incorporating weather at this point, but I can ask. Yeah, it's certainly going to change things. Climate change is changing a lot. Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna stand over here. Cause I'm from Pennsylvania. So I'm from the Commonwealth, you guys, not from New York. Recognize my face. I'm going to ask the newsletter to put in the newsletter, the DOAS newsletter. If you read it, I don't usually do this, but I would give you my name. And if you contact me through the right channels, I'll give you my phone number and my address. My home is on the Susquehanna River. Hopefully you know how that winds around and ends up to my neighborhood. Well, it ends up right in my front porch. So if you are brave enough to go down 88 or 81 in December or January, you can call me and I'll let you know if there's any eagles or any golden eagles pulling a fish out of the Susquehanna. So you can e-bird me, because sometimes we see fantastic stuff on my front porch. So just keep in touch, e-bird me, e-bird other members, look at the newsletter. I'm not a brave person, I read books, but you can knock quietly and I'll let you know if there's anyone home eating out of fish.
Thanks.
Thank you. I have a question.
Yeah,
You have 2 kids, so do you have any tips to offer for ways to really make birding exciting, interesting, tolerable? Preferably the beginning, but
yeah, right. Oh, it's such a challenge, I feel like today, especially just, that's the number one challenge I hear from hawk watchers. Just that, their hawk watchers are aging out and younger people aren't as interested in hawk watching, or they may be into birding, but maybe not standing in one location all day staring at the sky. They want to like work on their lists and move around, and it's hard. I would say find young birders groups. There's a lot of young birder groups around, that Phil was involved in starting one of them, certainly. Take them hawk watching again and again and try to get them engaged. Go there on a day when you know it's going to be good, so you get them hooked. Do you have ideas, Phil? Because you work with a lot of young birders.
Small doses of it at a time.
Which is not what we do with our
Right.
kids. Small doses, yeah.
yeah, they still-
Other kids, other friends doing it. Get them out
Yeah.
for friends.
Yeah, getting them out with their friends, certainly. Yeah, it's hard. We need more of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I monitor the all the hawkwatch sites because I'm like a reviewer for New York State.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so every year I see new sites. But then every year there's sites that disappear,
Yes,
you know, which is kind of what you were describing.
yeah.
Do you have any idea what the overall trend is as far as number of sites over the years?
Number of sites that are struggling, or that are how many
Well, I
each
guess-
year?
That are, that you would consider an active site, you know?
There's currently 205 active sites.
Mhm.
The bulk of them being fall. And I would say like we maybe lose, a handful every year. Some of them are, maybe not counting that long. Other ones, usually if it's a long-term site that's been struggling, we'll really step in and try to help them intensively to find funding and make some connections to keep them afloat. Like the Florida Keys Hawk Watch was one, for instance. They stopped counting for a couple of years, and they didn't have anybody willing to step up, and it's such an important site. They have more peregrines than anywhere in the world. So we ran that site for 1 year until they could get on their feet again. But more often than not, we just try to help them reach out to universities and colleges, to bird clubs. But it's an uphill battle for sure, because of so many people aging out and not as many. When they do find young people, sometimes it's they go off to college, or they don't stick around. And I feel like maybe we should be going after middle-aged people more, because they're the ones sometimes that have the energy or their eyesight, the time, but, yeah, luckily we are seeing, new sites join every year that helps, when
Yeah,
we
it
lose some.
seems like maybe some of the new sites are what, as you were describing, just experimental.
Well,
They try a site. and-
yeah,
A
yeah,
couple of years and then turns out it's not such a great spot.
yeah, so that happened a lot like in the seventies and eighties. I didn't mean to say that happens
Mm.
still, but it does. Some sites are just people trying things out and seeing if it's any good. But yeah, hopefully we can keep people interested and try to find a way to support them as best we can.